Hey, how's it going? Otaku Mike here, back again with another episode of the Usagi Yojimbo podcast, a podcast all about Usagi Yojimbo. And I know it's been a while since I've actually recorded an episode here and there, it's been about 8 months, I feel like. That's quite a long time to not record an episode for Usagi Yojimbo. But I'm actually feeling good, and I took some time away, a little hiatus, I feel like, and I've been working on my YouTube channel, The Otaku Mike, where I talk about other comic books that I'm into and stuff, very short form videos and stuff, and I review issue by issue and stuff, and I kind of put this on the back burner, which I get it, it's very much a passion project for me at this point, and something had to go. I couldn't really, at the time, do both and then do my podcast, Otakuology. It just took up a lot of my time, and I had to find that balance of just normal everyday life, creating podcasting, creating YouTube and stuff like that. So, I think I have it pretty, scheduled now, where you'll hopefully be getting a podcast every other week if I schedule it out properly. I will let y'all know ahead of time if there will not be an episode, but I just want to say thank you for listening, whoever's out there listening still to this day. I know I had somewhat of a loyal following at one point. We were a very niche podcast. There's only 2 Usagi Yojimbo podcasts out there. That's Usagi Yojimbo and the Ronin Rabbit. If you know, you know, okay? If you know, you know. But yeah, I am going to take a little detour from our coverage on the normal Usagi Yojimbo stuff, and I'm going to talk about a little crossover that happened back in 2024. This is actually the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Usagi Yojimbo crossover. This sort of celebrates 40 years of Usagi Yojimbo, which I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is actually the second story of Usagi Yojimbo that's not written by Stan Sakai or drawn by Stan Sakai. I think the first one was, I guess third if we count Chibi Usagi, which was done by Stan and his wife, Julie. I think it's Julie, right? His wife's name. Which, that's a fun book to read. Which Peter Laird did a Usagi short story at one point. I can't remember what that was in exactly, but I did know that he did a short story. And reading this, which this one is actually written by, I hope I do not butcher this name, but Ryan Parrott, I think that's how you say it. And then illustration is by Sean Daly, or is it Daly? I don't know. Daly, I think it is. And which is interesting. Stan's not drawing this. I know Stan did the alternate covers and whatnot for this, or an alternate cover for this, but it's kind of interesting to see Stan loosen the reins a little bit when it comes to creating Usagi Yojimbo stories, which begs the question, is this canon to Usagi or is it not canon? I need to know. Please, somebody let me know down in the comments, is this canon or not? I think it might be canon to the Power Rangers story. Or the Boom Studio Power Rangers. I don't know. But I can't wait to actually cover this. You can actually check out the podcast nowadays on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But you can also actually check out the podcast on YouTube Music as well as YouTube itself. We have a channel now, which is Usagi Yojimbo. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Not gonna lie. It's just episodes of me, just like before. There's nothing snazzy or anything about it. just me, an audio file, and a picture, and you get to listen to my thoughts. Some might say this is Usagi ASMR. I don't know. But let's actually get into this book. This book is actually a pretty thick, decent sized book, I feel like. And I can't wait to get into this. So yeah, let's get into this and let's talk about this weird crossover that we got. So our story actually starts out in the past. We actually see these ninjas. They're not the Neko ninjas, I'll tell you that, because one of them's a hippopotamus. We see the Neko ninjas, and they're actually not. Why did I say Neko ninjas when I just said they're not the Neko ninjas? The ninjas actually attacking this place, and I believe it's like a temple, if I remember correctly. And we see them, and we see somebody narrating, and they're like, I realize, one might look at this and, at my present, situation that I'm in, and one might think, hey, I'm at a disadvantage. But in reality, I'm not at a disadvantage because they have to worry about, just hitting me and not hitting each other. I am at an advantage because I can go after all of them. And we actually see the person that they're talking about, which is Usagi, Miyamoto Usagi, which I will say the artwork is different, which that is not a bad thing. But seeing Usagi's first interpretation in this book, it's a little jarring. I'm not going to lie, but I actually did end up enjoying this book, or this interpretation of Usagi, and like seeing him and seeing the reveal of Usagi was a pretty fun way to introduce you to this world. And we get the whole spiel like normal. You're like, I'm Miyamoto Usagi. I'm a bodyguard, a servant, a protector. Long ago I lost my master because of something that happened. We get the normal Miyamoto Usagi thing every time we meet Miyamoto Usagi or somebody meets him in this book, And Usagi basically is like, lay down your weapons, you can't defeat me, which they do end up laying down their weapons and like just kind of walking away almost. And we see that Usagi currently is in the service of, I believe she is like a priestess, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't think she's like a princess. I think she's a priestess, and which is Priestess Mizuki is her name, and she is actually charged with protecting this weird looking green rock, which very looks sort of reminiscent to like some kind of weird Power Rangers thing. I don't know if they ever really connect it or not, but it's a pretty cool looking rock. And Usagi, is like talking about this, how we have to protect it and stuff, and they're kind of asking like what will the future exactly hold? And we actually end up jumping to the future, and we see the Power Rangers fighting this giant pig named Hogwash is its name, and the Rangers are definitely trying to figure out at this moment like what exactly determines like a pig or a hog exactly. And they're as they're fighting, they're doing this, which is pretty funny. And the pig, hog, whatever you want to call it, spews out its acid fire breath it has, and like everybody's like not really taking this seriously except for Jason. He's like, look, if y'all aren't going to help in any sense, I feel like, I'm going to do this myself. And he actually ends up taking out his power sword and defeating the enemy single-handedly, I might add. And we have this big explosion, a big kaboom. And they're like, oh, nice, Red, which I don't remember them ever calling each other by their color of what they are. Like Tommy calls Jason Red. Actually, he calls him Big Red, to be exact, which I don't know. Maybe that's a new thing that's been going on in the Power Ranger comics. But they end up actually getting teleported, and they're like, oh my god, did we do something wrong here? What's going on? And they get teleported to a familiar place. They get ported to the temple where they in Japan, not the temple that Usagi's at, but a different temple. And they're like, what the heck's going on? I don't know what's going on. Is everything okay? Well, I said something is wrong. And they're like, yeah, I don't think we're in Angel Grove anymore. And we actually end up meeting the residents of this temple, where they're like, oh my god, they're outsiders. And we see that the Rangers see, like, oh my god, they're like furries or like anthropomorphic people. Like, what's going on here? And they're like, the people in the temple are like, oh man, like, they have no fur, no feathers or anything. What is going on here? And which is a pretty funny reveal that, oh my god, the Power Rangers are in the Usagi Yojimbo universe. But we get something pretty interesting in here. We see a man walk up and he's like, my people, they are our friends. These are the Rangers I have spoke of, which he starts to talk like, the Rangers, forgive me. I know this must seem very, very strange. My name is Tamatsu Ogasawara. I think I probably butchered that or something. And he is like a priest in this world, which I find to be very, very odd because they have never really showed any humans in this world except for one particular human, but they ended up like retconning that pretty early on. This whole scene is actually pretty funny when we see oh god, why did I just blank on his name? We see Tamatsu talking to the Rangers and stuff, and the Rangers are like, Rangers? We didn't tell him we were Rangers. And they're like, maybe it's the whole teleporting thing that gave it away, Zach. Like, what's going on here? And we end up finding out from Tamatsu is that he actually has been peering into the temple waters for many years, and he believes it is a nexus point between two different worlds. And he says, you are here because a legend of monster prey upon and murder us, basically, is what he says. You're here to help us out, and he kind of really like lays it on thick, I feel like, at this point. And we see the Rangers, they've kind of started to regroup, and they're all really like talking it out amongst themselves. Or like, they look human. Other than that, if someone's in trouble, like, we have to help them, right? Like, we have to help this group of people, right? And they're really kind of like hemming and hawing back and forth on whether or not that if they really want to truly do this. But Jason kind of like takes it one step further at this point, where he's like, but if we stand and let the innocent people, get hurt because we're too afraid to act, then I'm not sure if we deserve to call ourselves Rangers. And we see him go off with Tamatsu, and Tamatsu, talks to him. He's like, oh, thank you for agreeing to like help me, Red Ranger. He's like, no problem. I got this, and they start talking and kind of sort of start bonding a little bit. And Tamatsu actually tells him that he was actually found in the temple of the Endless Springs when he was actually a baby. And he, I imagine I must be here, a traveler from a different world like you. But these people took me in and like helped me out, and I became their leader. And we end up finding out that, he needs help, stopping this, like, basically, like, they didn't call them like demons, but like bad guys. They called them, if I remember correctly, they were like thieves or something like that. Tamatsu actually ends up sort of getting favor with Jason, or he actually starts, talk about him like leader to leader. Jason says, trust me, like, I understand you better than anybody, you know. Every time we step into battle, my friends joke, laugh, and kid around, but their lives are in my hands. So one wrong decision and it could be over. And Tamatsu's like, you know, if you do not feel the Rangers are capable, and he's like, no, the Rangers are good. Jason says, like, the Rangers are cool, even though they joke around and stuff. You know, we can help you get exactly what you need. And they actually end up going to the village where their supposed hostages at this point of Tamatsu's. Some of his people apparently have been held hostage, and the Rangers are actually sent there to actually go help people out. And it's funny, like, the Rangers are sitting there, like, looking at, like, what's exactly going on. They're like, Tommy says, like, I expected something, you know, with the, like, skeletons and cages and a little bit more scary. And Kim's like, you know, you're disappointed, like, it's not scary, like, what's going on here? And they end up actually jumping into action. They're like, it's morphin time. They jump in and they actually go into the village, like, full cocked. Like, they are, like, on it, ready to go. And we see the villagers, or the supposed kidnappers, actually get scared of them and run away. And the Rangers are starting to do second guess themselves at this point. And Jason's like, you know, Tamatsu said the hostages are in the large structure, then let's clear it before. And he gets stopped by this, like, torch that gets thrown down. It's on fire, and we hear, that's as far enough, devil. And we get the reveal of Miyamoto Usagi himself. And we see Usagi in all his glory, and he is like, you know, I do not know what you are, but your continued attacks on this village are at an end. So several people or several groups have already tried to attack this particular village and failed because Usagi is protecting this village. If you start putting two and two together, you'll know exactly what is going on here. Tamatsu basically has just lied to the Rangers and told them to go after the temple that Usagi is, in the village that Usagi is guarding, for reasons we will actually find out. Zack ends up saying, you know, that's the toughest bunny I have ever seen. And they're kind of like astonished and dismayed that Usagi is like there, and Usagi wipes the floor with these Rangers. He, you know, takes them out all at the same time. He slashes at Tommy. He actually throws his sword, breaking Kimberly's bowstring at one point. Man, he is just on, like, some other level, it seems like. Which, that's one thing that I actually do really like about this crossover, is that Usagi is not a pushover at this point. And he never really looks weak at all in this. He might be a little bit gullible at times in this, but, like, even the Rangers might be gullible in this, but seeing them in their obligatory superhero versus superhero fight is actually pretty cool, I have to say. And he ends up taking them all on, and it's just to see their reaction of him, like, being able to do this is pretty, like amazing, and just fun to see, like, how the Rangers react, because the Rangers are definitely out of their element at this particular point. And we move from that to Tamatsu is actually, we end up finding out that he is just using this as a distraction, and he goes to Mizuki and goes to where this special MacGuffin item is, and we end up finding out that he actually had worked with Mizuki and trained under Mizuki at one point, because they were she was his teacher at one point. But we end up finding out this is all just a distraction. You know, Usagi to fight the Rangers is just a distraction, and they end up finding this out a little bit too late at this point, and they end up Tamatsu ends up getting the Dragon's Eye, which that is the name of the giant glowing rock that we saw at the beginning of this issue. And they Rangers and Usagi come crashing through this wall, and they're like, put the dragon eye down. We can't have any of this. And he like, put it down? What are you talking about? I'm not going to put this down. And he does like this Hadouken to the Rangers and Usagi, and it's this big whole like ball of energy. It's pretty like epic. And the Rangers, Usagi are down, and we get this kind of funny moment and a scene that's pretty dire almost. And they're like, oh my god, Tomatsu's gone, everybody needs to regroup. And we end up finding out that Kimberly and Tommy have actually demorphed, and they are like unconscious. And we see Zach and Trini and Billy like, they're like, no, they're okay, like they're always okay. Trini, like, tell me they're okay, and tell me Kim is okay. And like, oh, she's breathing. And Billy says Tommy might have a pulse, he thinks. So like, seeing them like in this dire straits is pretty crazy, and they are definitely like outnumbered at this point. And we tell Usagi says basically to get them to a healer, both of them. And we see Mizuki, she says to seize the thief, the one who assisted the thief, the powerful of a powerful talisman, and stuff. And they point to Jason, and they are going to go arrest Jason. And like, Mizuki's not having it at this point. She's like, I too. Mizuki says that Jason has so much to answer for, and Mizuki's like, I too have seen visions of the Rangers in the spring of time. So Tomatsu's not the only one who has seen the Rangers in the spring of time. But I have never believed they would steal from us, is what she said. So she saw some different visions that the others did not, and Billy's trying to like be like, oh, look, we were deceived. We didn't know that this is the time or place to like even do this. And like, they're trying to like get out of this and like convince them that they're not the bad guys in the situation. And we actually get this interesting like viewpoint at it with Mizuki. She actually, is talking to them. And, Trini at one point says, if we known the truth, I swear we would never have set foot in your village. And Mizuki comes back at them pretty hard at this point, where she's like, yet you believed Tomatsu because he was human, yes? And they're like, well, when you say it like that, yeah, I guess we did kind of believe him, which is a very interesting way to like put it. They just kind of blindly like believed and followed him, like, to end up in this terrible situation. We end up finding out that the story that Tomatsu ended up telling the Rangers was mostly true. He was found in the temple as a baby, and he served as her apprentice, Mizuki's apprentice, for many years. But as they were guarding the Dragon Eye, they could see like how it affected Tomatsu in this situation. He would never stop trying to get this this item that he was so like enthralled with. And that's actually when Miyamoto Usagi steps in and becomes the protector of the Dragon Eye at this point. And we actually see Tomatsu end up actually starts like using the Dragon's Eye to its full potential. He starts like casting these spells. He starts to create an unstoppable army of lizardmen. He actually ends up taking a lot of his followers and changing them into lizardmen. So he takes other anthropomorphic creatures and turns them into other creatures that are going to basically do his bidding. And he actually awakens this dragon called Shinamumi. I think I butchered that. I don't know. But the dragon basically looks like Shenron from Dragon Ball, sort of. While Mizuki and the guards are actually holding the Rangers prisoner, Jason actually does slip away, and he ends up actually meeting Usagi. And Usagi is like, even after your companions made such an inspired plea, you're still going to run off and leave them behind? You humans are very, very strange. And Jason's like, look, I am not running away. I am just actually going to reclaim the dragon's eye. I'm going to make it better, make this world a safer place. And Usagi's like, look, follow me, okay? And Jason's like, look, I know what I must do. And Usagi's like, you think you know what to do, but I will show you what you're going to do. And Usagi starts telling Jason all about his past and his failure of not being able to protect his lord, Mifune. And he's like, once I was a samurai, I served a wise, gracious leader. He was my master, but it was my failure that led to his downfall. Afterwards, I was broken. My heart was bent on nothing but revenge. But I had to choose my charge who depend on me, just as you do. So Usagi also had to depend on people too, just like the Rangers do. And Usagi ends up taking Jason to his fallen comrades. He's like, look, you need to trust me in this battle. We are stronger together, not apart. And so they actually start coming up with a strategy. Usagi points them to this stairway, this big, huge, massive stairway to the temple. And he's like, this is where we're going to actually make our stand. How are we going to go up against the entire army? And they're going to go up against this army, which just in time, they actually, the army actually shows up at this point. And we cut from that to actually Mizuki is she's actually praying to the temple for 7 generations, keeping the existence and purpose of secrets, but she starts praying to the gods. And we see her and she's praying. She's like, I need you to help with the Rangers. And the Rangers, basically at this point, we see Tamatsu and all the lizards and stuff. The Rangers morph. The Rangers end up morphing, and they get a significant upgrade at this point, where we see them and they're all in this samurai armor, which they're so surprised that they're in this armor. And we see them and they all have this very ornate Power Ranger armor on with the samurai twist, and they all have new weapons, but they still have their same weapons. They're just a little different. Jason has a giant Tyrannosaurus sword. It's not a katana. It's like a giant kaiju sword almost. But man, they look cool, and they all have very distinct looks at this point. And they're so surprised, they're moving faster. They're doing backflips. They're taking out these lizard ninjas really fast, and they can't believe how well they're doing, and they feel like they can never go back to wearing spandex after they actually wore this armor. And we see Jason, he's talking about these ninjas are very chaotic. They should be using their numbers against us, but they're not. And Usagi basically says, yes, that is because they are actually just distracting us from the bigger picture. And we see Tamatsu actually go, I believe he's trying to kidnap Mizuki, if I remember correctly. But Usagi and Jason are there to try to stop him. And they're like, this does not look good at all. And we see the earth shake before them. And Tamatsu ends up summoning the giant dragon Shinamui. I can't talk tonight. Which he looks pretty cool. He looks like Shenron, like I said, or that big dragon Pokemon. I forget what, Rayquaza? He kind of looks like Rayquaza a little bit, if you know what that is. And they're like, oh my god, there's a giant dragon in front of us. And Kimberly's like, It doesn't have wings. How is it able to fly? And this funny scene where Billy's like, actually, in Japanese culture, and Billy gets cut off, and he's like, Billy, Zach says, and he's like, never mind. We don't need to know what's exactly is going on, but Usagi and Jason let the rest of the team go fight this giant monster, and somehow, I don't exactly know how, but the Power Rangers end up summoning the Dragon Zord and the other Megazords, and they make the dragon battle Megazord mode or whatever it is, and we do get this pretty cool fight. And seeing like technology, I guess magical technology, I don't know what you would call it, fight this giant dragon. It's a pretty cool fight, and it's cool. It's cool, and they definitely like get they get a couple shots off at this point, and we see like the fire is kind of taking over the Dragon Zord, and apparently the Dragon Zord is somewhat resistant to fire in this, but Tamatsu and the giant dragon end up getting the upper hand on the Power Rangers and the Megazord, and who happens to show up and thwart this plan but Usagi and Jason and the Tyrannosaurus Zord, which seeing Usagi ride on a giant robot T-Rex is pretty awesome, I have to say. And they're like, okay, we have one shot at this. We're going to get this right. And they do this cool like team up thing where the dinosaur like charges at the dragon and launching Usagi off, and Tamatsu's like, haha, you missed. But he did not, because if you remember from your Usagi knowledge, Usagi is a rabbit, and rabbits do what very well? They jump. So like he jumps past them, ricochets off a tree, and ends up stabbing the giant dragon, like stone, the dragon's eye, and breaking and destroying the giant dragon, which is a pretty cool scene to see. And you see Usagi surfing down on the Triceratops Zord, which is pretty badass. And we see the aftermath of what's going on. All of the people who were turned into the lizard ninjas ran off, or they're still in the village, but they're welcomed with open arms coming back to the village, because they technically really did nothing wrong but follow somebody who might have been mind controlling them. I don't know. And the Rangers kind of ask, is Tamatsu dead from what happened? And they're like, no, he is just in the underworld. He's trapped in the underworld in a different realm, which wouldn't you consider the underworld to be like where the dead go? I don't know. But, we get this nice little wrap up and stuff. Usagi is relinquished of his duties because he is done protecting the dragon's eye. It no longer exists, which the Rangers are surprised that Usagi's Usagi doesn't get any fanfare. He doesn't get a big giant parade. He doesn't get any rewards or anything like that. They're like, oh my god, all you get is a bow? I mean, come on, they could have done more for you. And he's like, no, it's okay. It kind of is what it is. It's just my job to help protect people. Like, that's what I do. I travel the world, helping people, whoever is in need. And Billy actually gives Usagi a souvenir, and he gives him a piece of the dragon's eye. And Billy figures that, hey, if you have a piece and we have a piece, I figured, we could keep it, and, maybe it won't be putting Humpty Dumpty back together. And we actually end up getting this nice little scene between Jason and Usagi, where Jason actually admits that he was wrong. And if Usagi didn't stop Jason from running off at this point, who knows what exactly would happen. And maybe Jason and everybody else would be dead because of the actions Jason was going to actually take. And, Jason's like, however, you were also wrong about one thing, Usagi. And he's like, oh, yeah, what was that? He's like, you may be a Ronin, but you are not alone. You were always a Ranger as well. And they kind of bow and have this really nice, touching moments. And we see the Rangers actually getting ready to get sent back to their worlds. And they're like, I can't believe we were able to get the Zords here. And, like, where have they been? And, and I wonder what Alpha's doing. Zordon might be having a cow right now. And they really liked the samurai outfits that they got. Like, they wanted to keep those so bad. And he was like, dude, that was an amazing sword, Jason says at one point. He's like, yeah, I know. Like, Tommy's like, I know, it was so cool, we had all these cool weapons. And they actually end up getting sent off. They're wondering if one day they'll actually possibly see them again, or see Usagi again at one point. And we get this nice touching scene at the end where Usagi has in the distance from the temple, he sees the Rangers actually getting teleported off, and he's like, but they also don't have someone to walk with. Or it's like, he says, but they don't have someone to walk with to hold and carry the burden when, things get heavy, or someone to simply celebrate a victory with. My name is Miyamoto Usagi. I am a samurai. I am a Ronin, but I am not alone. And that is where we end this issue. I have to say, when I first heard about this, I didn't really know if it was going to work as an Usagi Yojimbo story. I mean, we haven't really had, that my knowledge of, that many crossovers with other properties from Usagi. I think we've had the Turtles and this is like bear samurai character. I don't remember what his name is because I haven't read that crossover, or I think it is a crossover. I don't know. And I think there was like something else with like some indie characters or something like that. And I was really worried that this wouldn't work as a crossover. And I really thought it was going to be for all intents and purposes, a cash grab with this particular issue. And boy, like, I was wrong. I was wrong on so many levels. Like, I was like, did Usagi finally jump the shark after 40 years? Finally jumped the shark and like went too far. Because I mean, I think Stan Sakai oversaw the creation of this book, but I don't know if he, and maybe gave notes and stuff probably, but I don't think he really had that much of a hand in this. But I have to say, I felt like it was done very well and even respected the character of Usagi Yojimbo, which, I mean, if you don't respect Usagi, he's a classic character for a reason. He deserves that respect. But seeing him interact with the Power Rangers felt very natural, I have to say. And I like the fact in this book that Tommy is, in all intents and purposes, considered like the best Ranger of all Rangers. But to see him get put like kind of on the back burner, I was really surprised that Jason took the main focus of this book alongside Usagi. And to see like how they interact with each other, I felt like that was a really interesting thing to do. Now, I will say, I feel like this does have the like obligatory normal, we're fighting and there's a misunderstanding and stuff, and one of us is obviously being manipulated by nefarious means, which that does feel a little superhero crossover samey a bit, but I do feel like it does work, even though it is kind of like predictable. I kind of liked it, and I was like, oh, okay, like what's going on here? Like, okay, this is kind of predictable, but it works for what it is. It's just a one shot. I'm glad it's only a one shot, and I'm glad it doesn't go further like the other crossovers that we've had with certain individuals. Like, I will say the Turtles have like 4 to 5 issue crossovers, and I feel like sometimes they overstay their welcomes. This did not overstay its welcome, that's for sure. And I liked it. I thought the jokes landed pretty well. Like, I felt like the Rangers and Usagi both got their time to shine, and it kind of doesn't really mess with the continuity of either world. Like, I guess the only thing that probably messes with it is the bad guy, Tamatsu. Like, from all intents and purposes that I know, Lord Akiji was the only human at the point. I don't think when Usagi first started, Lord Akiji was revealed to be a human, but I think that got retconned, and I think he's just like something else. I don't remember what exactly he is, but from what I remember, like, they kind of retconned that and like made it something else or whatever. Like, Lord Akiji's like the big bad guy. If you're just listening, you're first listening to this episode. Why are you listening to the first episode if you don't know what it is? But yeah, it's good. I have to say, I was a little jarred by the artwork at first, but the artwork does fit. Like, Usagi has a pretty different, pretty like dramatic character design. Like, he looks thinner and stuff. It's definitely not Stan's, but it does work really well. I liked it had more of like an anime influence almost, which I thought was pretty interesting. And the Rangers are made to look with like the way they're drawn in this are very like they almost look like kids or like tweens almost at some points. Like, they don't look like, or I guess maybe like young teenagers they look like, but they don't look like the actors from the TV show, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, the artwork was amazing. It was fun. My only complaint with this is none of the other Usagi characters are in this. Like, we got no Gin, we got no Azuma, we got no Tomoe. Like, none of them are in this. It's just Usagi. And then the characters who might be original characters for this story are in it. But yeah, that's my only gripe is we don't get no Genosuke in this or any of the normal Usagi cohorts in this. But yeah, all in all, I actually did enjoy this issue. I don't know why it took me so long to get to this issue, because I bought this like a year ago and I never read it. I just bought it. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I'm Otaku Mike. This has been the Usagi Yojimbo podcast, and I look forward to coming back in 2 weeks to record another episode, which we will be going back to Volume 2 of Usagi Yojimbo's saga. To continue this, I believe there's like a one-off story, and then we're getting into the big boy. We're finally going to be covering Grasscutter, which Grasscutter is going to be a whole huge task into itself, I feel like, which I'm not going to lie. Like, I thought the Dragon Below conspiracy was like a big undertaking. Grasscutter blows it out of the water. Grasscutter blows it out of the water, and I'm like, how am I gonna do this for the podcast? But anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'm really glad that I am going to continue to do this. It might not be on a weekly basis, but I'm excited to continue this because we have a lot of Usagi to cover. We haven't even scratched the surface of the Dark Horse stuff. Because we got a lot to cover. And maybe one day we'll get Volume 9 reprinted of Usagi Yojimbo's saga, which that one I don't have yet. So hopefully by the time we get there, it gets reprinted. I don't know. So I don't know what we're going to do if it doesn't. We might just skip that whole part of Usagi Yojimbo and just go right into the IDW run. Anyways, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Peace out. Stay safe. Go read some comic books.